Right. And we're up. Hello, everybody. It is the Freelancer and Jake back for the Dark Council podcast.
Yo!
We are here today with the first of our new little line of topics. So, for refresher, Jake, do you remember what our next topic in what our newest line of topics is going to be?
I do remember this time. It's Isard.
We are discussing Isard as today's topic. Yes,
It's the baddie warlord, dude.
Yes, the warlords of the expanded era and beyond are going to be the topics of our discussion. Well, I say beyond, but really the only group we're really going to end up focusing on will end up being the freaking really only be the First Order, and that's only because we kind of have to discuss them in order to go over our topic of Dark Empire and Dark Empire versus the sequels. So
That's fair.
we'll have to go over them when we have to go over them as a whole. We have to go over them as a whole before we actually get to talk about all that. So with that in mind, we're gonna play around. We're gonna be starting off with the first warlord, and probably the one that of the early warlords is the most memorable for what this crazy bitch does.
Yeah.
Ysanne Isard, the director of Imperial Intelligence for several years, and a warlord and ruler of the Loyalists of the Empire after Palpatine's death. She may have been the heiress to the Empire itself due to how close she was to the Emperor, with how she had been given control of the Executor-class Super Star Destroyer, the Lusancia, which served a double role as a massive prison and torture complex, where she would go on to capture members of Rogue Squadron and even the Rebel Alliance leader, General Jan Dodonna. She would be seemingly defeated over the planet Thyfera at the hands of Rogue Squadron. However, she herself would have a reemergence with a second body, as most of the prominent warlords had, apparently. Once more defeated, she served as a cold example of how Tarkin's doctrines and the very cruel and diabolical methods the Empire employed could prove effective, but also quite costly when not properly controlled.
It's wild how much Tarkin did when he was alive. It's crazy.
That man did so much and fucked up even more.
It's bad, dude.
Tarkin is part of the big reason the Empire kind of broke apart on itself.
A little bit.
But it also has to do with Palpatine basically feeding that and just letting him do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the Empire was doomed from the start.
I mean, probably, but...
Now, was that all part of Palpatine's plan, though?
Well, I mean, he clearly...
60 chess.
Well, I mean, he clearly, in both continuities, had fail-safes in mind, where he could just resurrect himself. He clearly had planned fail-safes to bring himself back.
He said he's playing 60 chess. Was it his plan that the Empire was like, the Empire imploded?
This is all just a self-made complex, so I could just continuously resurrect. I don't have to worry about death. Well, I don't have to worry about dying. Fuck the Empire. I'm just gonna become immortal.
That's right. Somehow I returned.
Again and again and again and again and again and again.
Comic book villain, dude.
All right. So let's get into the early life of Ysanne Isard. What'd you do?
I was moving my coffee to my desk and I spilled some on my foot.
Ow.
It's very hot. real bad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna leave like a little red mark on my foot now. That sucks. I don't like that. Ouchie.
Could have been worse.
I could have spilled the whole thing. My cat would have been like, yo, dodge. I would have been like, what? And then just spilled the whole thing on the floor. On me and the cat, no one would be happy. And I would blame them. It's their fault.
Little man's learned that day.
Yeah, you go learn today.
So, get into the early life of Ysanne Isard. So
the good section of the wiki.
Yeah,
before
the good
she gets all horrible.
the good section. Let's go with that.
Before she gets horrible.
Well, Ysanne Isard was born around 30 BBY as part of a wealthy family on Coruscant. Her father, Armand Isard, was the director of the Senate Bureau of Intelligence and would become the first director of Imperial Intelligence when the Republic reformed into the First Galactic Empire in 19 BBY. The Isards had been quite influential under Palpatine's rule and would do more so when they inevitably would become part of the Empire. Isard especially was someone many would have found attractive, especially given her natural heterochromia. She had one red and one blue eye, and even seemed at an early age she had a white streak that went right in line with her left eye.
Yeah, she had main character syndrome.
She had like the crazy single white streak in her hair that went literally symmetrical to being in line with her left eye.
Yeah, the
top of that,
the artist for the comic book knew exactly what they were doing.
Top of that, she was pretty much she pretty much was a daddy's girl. She followed Armand around everywhere,
like a lost puppy,
and followed him even around the Office of Imperial Intelligence for various periods of time.
No, you can't do that. That's a child.
And would meet some of the various officers and even some notable inquisitors like High Inquisitor Antinous Tremaine. While most were unsure of her being around, this served to harden her childlike naivete when she got to working as a proper field agent in her 20s.
Understandable. Gotta harden up that heart. You're here with Imperial Intelligence. Everything's bad.
She would already follow Palpatine's and Tarkin's doctrines of only the most successful thrive. And she grabbed that ideology by the throat and put it in a chokehold. Were there ever an example of knowing how to game the system, it would be Director Iceheart, as she would later be known.
Hell yeah.
While most would believe she used her father's position to game the system, unfortunately, this cold-hearted witch was all talent and skill. So, unlike like 60% of every Imperial officer, she's one of the minority that knows what the hell she's doing. And that's even worse.
She's out here being like, we are the baddies, and I love it.
Yep.
That's dope.
In fact, she knew exactly how to get close to Palpatine and knew how to put herself in the pocket of most officers, sending the ranks quickly under the Empire. And like I said, at the age of 20, she was already one of the best field agents of Imperial Intelligence.
Hell yeah.
She had a multitude of fellow agents who acted as her backup on assignments. Although she was a capable and cunning operative, at the time, Isard was not exactly the most physically adept yet. She had made great use of utilizing brute squads of former stormtrooper NCOs, men who had been chosen for their physique rather than their intelligence as a means of making up for her own lacking physical aptitude.
Yo, my boy's strong. Don't fuck with me.
This actually sparked rumors she had been having this squad be acting as her lovers, but this was merely that, a rumor. Isard knew how to use her looks and sometimes body to play the system and reach her target. Not her goal, her target. Because for her, every position was a target to take down and control for herself. She climbed that ladder, eventually gaining prestige as Palpatine's personal spy for a time. She tried to worm her way into the good graces of anyone with a prestigious career or position, including later on that of the Imperial Flight Baron Sunter Fell, a man whom she would later come to use for her own means.
How dare you? That man had a family.
I mean, he still does have a family.
Yeah. But like, dog. How dare you?
Now we begin the point where she starts her rise to director. Ysanne had been sent on a mission to Darknull, where rebel agents had managed to steal a set of data cards containing coordinates to the exact location of the Death Star's construction site at Despair. That is actually what the name is, by the way. It
Despair?
is Despair.
Not despair. Despair.
Yes.
So it is. So it's not what you think it is. It's the other
it's basically the same thing.
Legally distinct despair.
Monokuma would be proud. And a transfer between agents of the Alliance was to occur as well in this exchange. She was tasked with the capture of the agent who was to retrieve the data cards, returning them both to the Empire. She had brought her most trusted enforcer along, a hulking man by the name of Traveler, as backup. Assuming the role of a Darknull special security agent, Katya Glask, he had gotten into the capital city and started her hunt. During this time, she would meet the Corellian Security Force, or Kursec officer, named Hal Horn, and would aid him in his search for a criminal known as Miranda Savage, a woman who he later helped bring down and would spot having a conversation with her enforcer, proceeding to order him to kill her. Horn agreed then to aid Isard in her hunt, despite his own problems with the Empire. She then leveraged him with a lie, stating that the man they were hunting was the one who allegedly killed the Corellian senator and renegade rebel leader, Garm Bel Iblis.
Not Garm, he's too cool.
Claiming he was a loyal Imperial and used this to leverage his aid in this ordeal. However, as stated before, this was a lie, since her father, Armand Isard, himself ordered Garm Bel Iblis' assassination due to Iblis' prior anti-imperial tendencies. Isard visited various criminal hubs and got a lead from a bartender in a cantina about a brown-haired human female woman, where they started to search down possible leads. During the escapade, Hal Horn was almost killed by Traveler after outliving his usefulness to Isard, when she incapacitated him for a moment to steal his blaster. Not long after, Traveler was killed by Horn with a vibroblade, which Horn had hidden on his person.
That's kind of dope, though.
During this mess, Horn explained he had identified their target already, and that it had been Miranda Savage, who they apparently not killed properly. Horn had gotten Isard to agree to working with him on this hunt on her condition he'd be wearing a choke collar, which would crush his windpipe on her command or her demise.
Okay.
She and the Kursec officer took on a long search and found their way into Savage's clutches after baiting a ploy that got Isard and Horn arrested by a member of Darknull Defense Agency. She had failed in her mission to prevent the data card's delivery to Mon Mothma, and she had also failed in stopping or even capturing the rebel agent. This was practically a start to the death knell of her career. For most people, it seemed that way. However, she would not be going down herself, or even at all.
She's like a cockroach.
She had a candidate to blame for all of this. Her own father.
That's insane.
The current director of Imperial Intelligence, she was going to turn this little bump in her career into a hurdle to a position of power. She had turned the mission's failure on her father, and despite her father's assurance of her not being majorly reprimanded, she wouldn't care, and began a whole sting attack against Director Armand Isard, and would declare and claim she had been sent on a suicide mission, that he was a rebel agent, and he had prevented Senator Iblis's assassination from success. All backed by the Emperor's royal guards, she had brought the hammer of judgment on her father on charges of treason, which the Emperor had him executed for within that same hour.
That's crazy.
Rumors even claim that she and herself was the one who, not in both figurative and literal sense, was his executioner.
That's crazy.
With that assured, Ysanne Isard had overthrown her father remorselessly and had become the new director of Imperial Intelligence. Built up relations with Palpatine further, and even being the most to receive her attention. Having been the biggest target in her way, she had ruled in her command with fear over her underlings and followers, though oftentimes she would allow for rare rewards to be offered for those who could seemingly perform outstandingly. She would rarely hold back her anger, and any promotions handed out were frequently rescinded. Officially, her power was circumscribed by the Ubictorate, a group of powerful advisors. Though she didn't argue against them, she was in fact meant to monitor their actions after all. Sort of cycle of power between the imperial leadership. So it was an easy way to keep track of what her closest opposition was and what they were doing. She had been a proper voice in whispers of suggestion to Palpatine during his rule, and would even achieve her own means by fulfilling the void that Grand Moff Tarkin would leave vacant for a while. She grew to acquire a massive prison center that she doubled as a way of brainwashing rebels or opposition into becoming sleeper agents against the rebels and for the Empire, only needing a single bit of coaxing out to make them activate.
That's crazy.
Palpatine had allowed this and proceeded to construct a new Executor-class Super Star Destroyer, along with Vader's Executor at Fondor. The ship served as a double for its sister ship being constructed on Coruscant, where she had renamed it the Lusankia. Palpatine had the ship hidden deep beneath the cityscape of Coruscant, and had it removed from the memories of anyone who was not directly within Isard's or his direct circle. She had spent time working her new position, and after the Battle of Yavin, she had claimed her first prisoner. The rebel general who commanded that very same engagement, and that had led the destruction of the first Death Star, General Jan Dodonna. Dodonna was the first, but certainly the most influential prisoner she would claim. She had taken rebels in, but also put in the officers and personal enemies against her and her motives down there as a means of further rising the ladder. Lusankia had become a place of nightmares and ghost stories for those in the Alliance after word got around of its supposed existence. It was never discovered where it had been hidden, and this worked to gain favor with Palpatine, despite his nonplussed concern over their existence as pawns in his playbook. Though her command was forged by fear, those who truly followed her had a deep-seated respect for Isard. Her work as director, was a major secret she had, in fact, kept while displaying a slight public face. She would personally thank many Imperial civilians, such as Garrick Face Loran, a child holovid actor who starred in Imperial propaganda films before becoming a pilot for the Empire later on, and even defecting to the New Republic and leading the New Republic's Wraith Squadron. She had also...
What a fucking name on that guy. Hold on. Wasn't there an actual guy in World War II who did that?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure that's just
I want to say, but he was an American, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I'm not entirely. I'd have to go back. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure when we actually get to talk about Race Squadron, we'll probably add that in as like weird trivia. We'll probably look into that as part of like weird trivia thing.
Nice.
But top of this, she had also made a new prison on the Imperial homeworld named after her own father.
Oh, that's so rough.
Serving as not only Director of Imperial Intelligence, she still held a role as Palpatine's personal spy. And come to find out about one Mara Jade, one of the Emperor's hands, deeming her a potential mark on her target board of people who could go against her. Isard, however, would form a major grudge with the Emperor's hand, as Palpatine assured her she was not someone who would betray him, but that Isard herself was a more likely threat to him than Mara Jade was.
Not wrong, though.
Actually, it's... I mean, it's a little more ironic, actually.
Yes.
Because
yes.
of what actually happens.
Yes. It's definitely more ironic, but at the time...
At the time, yes, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. But it's ironic for what comes later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isard had gone on several missions and led several counterintelligence runs against the Alliance. He also had been in charge of a project as part of a superweapon project known as the Conqueror, an Imperial-class Star Destroyer equipped with a super laser, much like that of the Death Star. This one I actually did not know about until I actually started reading over it. So, apparently, she had led she was in charge of managing a superweapon project known as the Conqueror, which was basically like the fucking Star Destroyers from Rise of Skywalker, but more like the Eclipse. Okay. It was straight up an Imperial Star Destroyer in looks that was equipped with a super laser like the Death Star.
Okay. So, the fleet in the third sequel.
Yes. She was in charge of managing a ship that was testing a super weapon like that.
That's silly.
Yeah. I didn't even know that. And I'm like, wow. They really did reach deeper into the fucking lore than I expected. Surface level knowledge only goes so far.
True.
Much like that of the, she had performed a prior test with the weapon and tested it over the planet Mustafar with the aid of a dark Jedi sect known as the Black Guard, who would aid them in the retrieving of a supply shuttle for the Conqueror and would suddenly watch it destroyed as the members of the Rebels' Renegade Squadron had arrived and blew the ship to smithereens. Managing to infiltrate the ship using the same supply shuttle that they were sent to retrieve, by the way.
Oh, of course.
And the fact that it was Renegade Squadron makes me think, was that a mission in the fucking Renegade Squad video game? I bet you it fucking was.
It probably was.
I bet it fucking was. I'd never actually played Renegade Squadron before. I didn't get the chance to play either of the PSP video games.
Yeah.
So, because I wanted to play, because I have seen the Elite Squadron game. I've never played the PSP version. Well, I have tried the PSP version. I've never properly played it before. But I've never played Renegade Squadron at all.
That's fair. I think I've touched it once.
So, following that, she would, of course, try to gain the courtship of the Imperial Flight Baron Suter Fel of the 181st Imperial Fighter Group. Someone who caught her eye, but would be rebuffed by the Flight Baron, even with offers of power, promotions, and even sexual advances. Based, Fel.
You know what? True.
Absolutely based. Bro went, be gone, thought! Be gone with thee!
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
She had originally been sent to order him to Dara 4, where Darth Vader and the Chiss Admiral Mithron Yorodo had begun preparing to hunt down the rebels. Attempting to use this to gain massive favor with Fel. Being refused in her advances, she played it off like a request from the Emperor to test his loyalty. And with his refusal to enter her court, she had painted a target on the Baron's back. Something Fel had recognized, knowing the reputation of Director Iceheart by this point. Isard presumably participated in the same mission. She would be present at the following award ceremony, and however this all officially began to ascend her beyond Director of Imperial Intelligence, and was now aiming to take over the Empire. Now we enter the time where we see Warlord Ysanne Isard. In 4 ABY, the Rebel Alliance won against the Empire and had not only destroyed the second Death Star, but also the Executor, Darth Vader, and the Emperor himself. It was truly chaos on the Imperial front. Isard, however, had come about to perform her normal peacekeeping. Having deployed Imperials to where celebrations of Palpatine's demise had begun occurring planet-wide on Coruscant, and were just as quickly being stamped out by Isard and her squads of stormtroopers. She had then proceeded to look at taking the Imperial throne for herself after the Grand Vizier, Saint Pestage, had taken on the title and role of Emperor following Palpatine's death. The close advisor and chief administrator to the late Emperor had assumed his predecessor's role and throne, but not for long. Isard had staged a coup where she had finally had authority to bring down Mara Jade, and had Pestage, along with the Emperor's hand, finally ready to be thrown out. Jade was her first target, as she had been getting Pestage to basically follow everything Isard said blindly. Hang on. Mute. These fucking notifications.
Oh, you getting notifications? Uh-oh.
People fucking sending messages and shit.
People trying to talk to me. Fuck that noise.
Jade, of course, being a force sensitive like the Emperor, had taken Isard off guard. Soon she had prepared a trap to attempt to bring down the Emperor's hand. Much to her own chagrin, Isard would see that she had been outwitted by the much craftier Mara Jade, who had disappeared and would not surface again for some time after Isard chased her through and off Imperial Center. She had also begun to learn of a special project left behind by the Emperor. Palpatine had secretly left Sparty cloning cylinders under the Imperial Palace, where Isard had produced a clone of herself to hide away, and even kept it hidden in suspended animation aboard her flagship, the Lusankia, with only her being privy to its existence. Several months later, she had launched her plan against the Grand Vizier in what she called Project Ambition, where she had orchestrated Pestage's downfall, much like her own father, by appealing to the Council of Grand Moffs to see that Pestage be tried and convicted for treason against the Empire. However, it would not be until after 6 months of long-fought conflict with the newly emboldened New Republic forces that she would get to enact this plan, during which she tried to berate Pestage's plans to use Admiral Lon Isodo as a leading figure for the conflict at Brental 4, and she tried to turn Baron Sunterfeld to her side once more, promising a chance at becoming a warlord himself, even offering him the Imperial throne. However, she would see that Lon Isodo's incompetence and the skills of Baron Fel alone were not enough. She would approach him and inform him of his command to kill the Baron's brother-in-law, Wedge Antilles, to spite him. Fell, however, would not win his fight with the leader of Rogue Squadron and would be captured and taken aboard the Independence.
Bum, bum, bum.
It was through this failure on Isoto and Pestage that Isard had begun to see the seeds she sowed with Project Ambition begin blooming. After this, Isoto was killed at the hands of one of Isard's spies, as a woman named Grania, and she had seen after bringing these claims of treason to the Council of Moths. Both Fell and Pestage, where a conflict involving a moth turned pirate named Leona Tavira, who tried to hold Leo Organa hostage and would serve as the lead to bringing down the current ruler of the Empire for herself. She had deployed the Admiral Delat Krenel to Axilla to recover Tavira and Organa, but would find she had gained access to a bigger fish, Saint Pestage, who had waited to meet Leo Organa on Ciutric 4, where Pestage would be brought aboard following his abandonment by the New Republic to Krenel's flagship, the Reckoning. Aboard, Krenel would then kill the man aboard his Star Destroyer, and with that, Isard had gained total control.
Yeah.
Isard had begun her personal plans and dealing with the last of her problems in the form of the Tribune, big members of the Ubictorate. Fucking, that was a
You'll
word.
Get there.
I get there. English are hard.
It's true.
The first of her victims was the Tribune Challenger, who was killed by one of her spies, who posed as his mistress that pulled the trigger on him, later killing the Tribune Plumba, the hands of another of her spies.
That is unfortunate.
The last of these was General Paltier Carbon, who was effectively the last face off the board of the ruling council standing in her way. Following Pestage's death, Isard would learn of Krenel taking Pestage's holdings and becoming a warlord over the Ciutric hegemony. It was not that much of a problem, as she had now established her place as ruler of the Empire. But, like many of the warlords, all of them face a rise as well as a fall.
True.
Pour
one out for fucking Thrawn, dude.
Isard was able to hold power over the Empire for some time, as 8 months had passed since Pestage's assassination. Isard had took over as the quasi-empress. She had seemingly began recalling hundreds of forces to Imperial Center, which she had organized the Empire's defense for awaiting New Republic attack. However, a core loss was that of the Black Fleet in a disastrous debacle at Cal Ceti. Among those was the Super Star Destroyer Intimidator.
And they lose those like often, and that's unfortunate.
Don't worry, you're gonna see a lot more go away. Get used to seeing Super Star Destroyers lost like candy down the drain.
That's unfortunate. Well, I mean, it is the Vong, I guess, so that makes sense.
We're not even dealing with the Vong yet, dude.
Oh, that's upsetting. People need to learn how to use those things better. Holy shit.
We have to remember who we're dealing with. It's the Empire, my guy.
Oh my god, dude. We have the biggest and strongest ship ever known to man, and we lose them. They just slip through our hands. They're just gone forever.
Gone forever. Although many naval officers remain loyal to Isard, including Gilad Paleon, Melton Tackle, and Afshin Makadi, many would seek to topple her regime. The biggest was the Central Committee of Grand Moffs, led by Grand Moff Bertroff Hissa, who had escaped our list during our last little episode. Actually, I had completely forgotten to include him because I don't even think I even mentioned the Committee of Grand Moffs on our list, because they're pretty much the main Imperial face after Paleon dies. I think that's what I mentioned, was that they're the last remaining Imperial leadership after Paleon's death. That may have been mentioned, but I don't think I did. But I am mentioning him here now because mentioning that little slip up because I had completely forgotten Bertroff in this whole list, which is hilarious because when I played the Loyalist in Thrawn's Revenge, when they added the whole regime system, I always go with the Central Committee instead of going with Isard.
Yeah, well, is that just preference because you don't like Isard?
It's more what I get out of it because they actually have when you side with the Central Committee, one, you get Kessel.
Hell yeah!
Because that's actually something we'll bring up later, is that Hissa actually based himself originally out of Kessel. But you also get like a ton of cool admirals alongside that. Well, you get a ton of different admirals. I can't say they're all really cool. You get a Dark Jedi character who is actually a pretty good fill-in for like not having any Force user character. You get a really cool, you get a really decent hero character for a while that you can use in ground combat because the Committee of Moffs is mostly space heroes and administrators, so you don't really get a lot of good you don't get a lot of really good ground commanders when you take them, which isn't much different from Isard, honestly.
Fair.
Isard gets a lot of like unique single heroes instead of having like a wide list of special hero, a wide list of like varied heroes. She just has a lot of like more unique special heroes. Also, she gets a Superstar Destroyer because you get the Lusankia.
Hell yeah.
You don't get Kessel if you take Isard though, so you have to actually go and take Kessel. It does become unlocked after you get to that point, because that's after Pestage and the regime scheme.
But it's still very doable.
It is doable. You just have to get all the way over there. Someone also that we mentioned in our list of minor warlords on our list was that of the other obstacle in her path, that being the self-proclaimed son of the Emperor, Trio Cullis. I've
never even heard of that, man.
Don't worry, I didn't either until we got to this point.
Okay, good. It's not just me.
I can give a brief summary of the man here because we're probably not going to be talking about him much after.
Ah, because he eats shit and dies.
Very much eats shit and dies. So, Trio Cullis was...
Son of the Emperor, does not explain further, dies.
Absolute jobber. So,
God.
Trio Cullis was born on Kessel and was in fact a human mutant with a third eye, effectively making him a Triclops.
Oh, damn, dude. It's TN.
Trio Cullis was actually originally supported by the Committee of Grand Moffs for a time, and it wasn't until he tried to set about doing his own shit, proclaiming himself the son of the Emperor, that in fact that he would go about eating shit. The way this all happens, though, is directly orchestrated by Isard, however, so it is worth mentioning here.
Nice.
So, with two obstacles...
Lives a quiet life, mentions he's the son of the Emperor once, fucking gets bodied.
I mean, he has some stuff that happens beforehand, but it's not anything that's actually worth bringing up. It's the same thing with Pestage. Man's not exactly that interesting on his own. He's just surrounded by a lot of interesting people.
Yep.
So Isard had seen two new threats pop up in her scope. That of the Committee of Grand Moffs and that of Trio Cullis and his new empire.
It's like everybody's making their own empire with blackjack and hookers.
Some of them with blackjack, some with just hookers, some with neither.
Yeah.
you're the Eriadu Authority, you're the one with neither.
Oh, those guys. Ooh, that's rough for them.
But Isard had planned around the idea of using Zorba Zedalik Tyr, or Zorba the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt's own father, as a fact. Did not actually know that, by the way, when I originally got into this. No, I didn't know Zorba was Jabba's father.
Are they all just called the Hutt?
Well, that's more of the title that they gain, but they do have, like I just said, they actually have like a full name to them, but they're more it's easier to refer to them as just their status as a Hutt.
Okay. Now,
you just refer to them by their first name and then add the Hutt at the end.
Now, they are, like, the race is called Hutt, right?
Yes, the race is called Hutts.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's like being called Jimmy the Human. That sucks.
They're the Hutt Syndicate, so it's more referring to their title than just their race. It's more referring to their status as the members of the Hutt Syndicate rather than the race that they are.
That's fair. Yo, guys, look, Jimmy the Human's here. It's like a mob name if the mob names were boring.
I mean, that's what the Hutts are supposed to be. They're like the mob.
Yeah, except they have boring names. It's not like fucking I can't think of any good fucking names right now. Holy shit.
Pinprick Polly.
Yeah. Not like Ratfink Gerald or something. You don't want to be Ratfink Gerald.
No, you don't want to be Two-Toed Tim.
You don't want to be Toad the Toad, dude.
But yeah, no, she apparently had Zorba in Imperial custody for a time and tried to release him and pit him against Trio Cullis as a way of taking out Princess Leia in a self-assured mutual destruction.
Okay.
Zorba didn't exactly decide to do any of that.
Of course not.
And he returned to Hutt space and decided that he was just gonna stay there.
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Trio Cullis, however, also had his own idea of doing things, and that was not taking out Princess Leia, but instead going after the Church of the Dark Side, where their leader had in fact been the man the self-proclaimed next emperor. Leader of the Church of the Dark Side was a man by the name of Kadan, who was the man who ultimately completely destroyed Trio Cullis. And when I say absolutely destroyed this man, it was bad.
Oh, that's rough.
This man, like, when I say he was a jobber, he went out like one too.
That sucks.
So,
God, I loved it when Jimmy the Jobber just came in and jobbed all over the place.
But after Isard had taken over, however, the church slowly started to fall apart, which he basically opened up basically repealed Pestiges Act to force the sole religion of the Empire to be that of worshiping the Sith and the dark side.
Boo.
And then she opened it up to all religions, ensuring that the Church of the Dark Side would fall apart. Which it did. As a fact, Grand Admiral Afshin Makati was the one responsible for bringing down the church and killing Kadan himself. Though
I never gave much thought about there actually being, like, organized religion in Star Wars.
Well, you
Never
gotta-
even, came to mind as something that exists.
So it's something you don't really think about, because normally you think of the only two religions being that of the Force, the light side, and the dark side, or the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think about there being other big religions that exist out there, which even wilder makes more sense when you think about the more backwater and tribal worlds.
Yeah.
Like, those people have, especially the freaking unknown regions, like, all those people have some strange fucking worships going on out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of religions for everybody in the Star Wars universe, more than there ever could physically possibly be in our own universe.
True. Because, well, I mean, maybe not, but definitely on Earth.
Definitely on Earth.
There's definitely way more people in Star Wars than there is on Earth.
Yeah.
Considering they can blow up planets, not everyone's like, holy shit, we're all going to die.
Yeah, it's when you get to the planet blowing up that you start reaching what we equivalent to nuclear war.
Yeah. Dude, nukes are nothing.
Nukes in Star Wars are in fact
planet
nothing.
cracking, that's the new nuke, dude.
Like, honestly, that's when you get to that point.
Dude, mass shadow generation, that's the new nuke, dude.
Star Wars has so many super weapons that nuclear bombs, what are those?
Nukes, dude, my son plays with nukes and he's only 6. What are you talking about? Nukes are literal child's play.
Literally the toys of children.
Still just as deadly though.
So, following the Church of the Dark Side's downfall, Isard would several months after that, Isard would face another threat in the form of Imperial Inquisitor Jarek, the Dark Jedi who would gather his own forces under the backing of the former Grand Moff Artis Kane, gaining a following of Dark Jedi and a Super Star Destroyer.
Ooh.
His is actually one of the more unique ones, because I think his is a Vengeance class. It's the big one that looks exactly like a fucking sword.
Hell yeah.
It straight up looks like a Gladius sword. It's badass.
That's dope. I want more ships to look like fucking weapons.
Yeah.
I want a ship that just looks like a pirate cannon.
Hmm.
And in the middle of it is the Star Destroyer.
Look, Jake, we can't all have the Dark Saber, okay? We can't all have the Dark Saber or the Galaxy Gun.
We can. If they weren't cowards, everyone would have a Dark Saber.
I just thought about that, and then my brain switched gears, thinking about going from like the fucking super weapon, and then remembering, that's right, there's 2 names of the fucking Dark Saber now. Thanks, Filoni. Right. Thanks for skewing with our brains, you bastard.
Hey, not gonna lie though, the handheld Darksaber, also fucking cool.
I mean, the freaking dark-centered blades were always a badass feature, and that's one thing I love. One thing I always go for when I play Sith characters in SWTOR. I always get a freaking, like, dark red, a black and red, or a black and purple when I do a Sith character. I always get those 2 colors.
Hey, speaking of that, when are we going back to that?
Maybe soon, considering 7.6 is getting ready to release.
Oh hell yeah! I'm gonna be playing way too many MMOs upcoming. It's gonna be real bad. For those of you listening, I just resubbed to Final Fantasy XIV again. Again. I only unsubbed for like 3 months. It's like, man, I'm not even playing this game. I should stop. And then 3 months later, I'm like, dude, I need my fix. It's bad. It's bad out here. I have a problem, and the problem is glams.
The problem is glams.
I don't run dungeons for levels. No, I run them for glams. Come on.
But
it's fashion MMO. Come on.
Yeah, it ultimately, Inquisitor Jarek would never truly be the threat that Isard would have to worry about, and ultimately would continue to build her command over the Empire as time went on. She had kept tabs on and kept communication with the Chiss Grand Admiral Thrawn. She even helped orchestrate the capture of the former Flight Baron Suntir Fel and offered him as a means of keeping Thrawn from overthrowing her.
Yo, we can be best friends, right? You're not gonna overthrow a best friend, right? Look, we're best friends.
Well, you gave me the coolest dude. You know, one of the coolest dudes in the Empire. Sure, fine. Well, I'm still trying to work on stuff in my own space. You have fun over there.
Yeah, you stay over there. Don't even look at what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. It's not for you.
It's not for you. It's for those guys outside the galaxy.
Yeah. You just keep doing you.
She had also gained the following of another of the Emperor's Hand, Lumaya, and had developed her standing with them by having several Imperial Royal Guard transferred to her control. One of those guards being the soon-to-be Crimson Emperor Karnor Jax. We will get to him. He comes after Palpatine.
This is a mouse Cthulhu we'll use for later.
So it's pretty much at this point where we start getting to more where I remember a lot about what a lot of the lore around Isard, because we're starting to get into the deeper parts of the second, third, and fourth Rogue Squadron novels.
Okay.
Starting to get into Wedge's Gambit, Krytos Trap, and Back to War. So Isard kept updating her clone and was soon able to cross paths with the New Republic's Rogue Squadron, whom she had been suffering many losses to since the start of her rule. It was time she had begun preparing failsafes, one of those being how she tried to take the pilot Tycho Selchu as a prospect of brainwashing and torture at Lusankia. However, the pilot had escaped and survived, not being corrupted. The Empire had been stable for now, but she had to deal with the nuisances of Rogue Squadron quick. Begun looking into the Corellian Kirtan lore, who was a major rival and opposition for some of the rogue pilots, namely Corran Horn, the son of Hal Horn, who had crossed Lore's ire some years ago and got dropped out of Corpsec for doing so. She had also managed to gain a mole in Rogue Squadron, the Thyferan noblewoman Irisi Delaret, who had been part of the planet's major Bacta manufacturing, which had served to be a key component for one of her major failsafes. Lore had managed to track down and have one of the rogue members killed, Lou Jane Forge, and had several more injured at the Battle of Talasia. Rogues, however, were able to stop them at Borleus and thwarted the Imperial General, Ever Dericote. Soon enough, as the rogues drew near to Imperial Center at Coruscant, she had begun to deploy her new failsafe.
Dun, dun, dun.
The Krytos virus.
Another fucking virus? Dude, the Empire fucking loves chemical weapons, dude.
This virus, however,
biological weapons.
This weapon only worked against non-humans, and she had hoped to use this to cause a sense of discord and animosity against the New Republic, aiming to bankrupt them and if they tried to use the Bacta to cure the sickness, would ultimately have to run the market, as she basically had the production of Bacta in her back pocket, thanks to her little mole, Irisi Delaret.
So the racist virus.
Pretty much.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Sometime while this virus was being prepared, she would ultimately have a Imperial interdictor cruiser, the Black Asp, sent out to try to capture the Rogue Squadron pilot Brora Jace and had the New Republic believe he was captured. She, however, would lose the pilot and also had lost her patience with Dericote, having him be the last line of defense against the New Republic. She had learned of Lore's accomplishment in killing the former Coruscant officer Gil Bastra, former mentor of Corran, aimed to try and have this news be able to take down the young Horn boy. She, however, would...
I hate that you called him the young Horn boy. Aren't all young boys horn, though?
Shut. Shut. Door hole, zip it.
Oh. I'm running out of air. I'm laughing too hard.
Damn it. I have nothing.
the fucking silence is so good. Oh.
Fuck.
I live to throw a wrench in the works, just so you know.
Yeah, that's why I have you here.
I'm motivated by clownery and clownery alone. Oh, fuck.
Isard, however, would come to find a newest form of competition brewing in the galaxy, that of the warlord Zinj, who had finally started to make his moves trying to take over the Empire himself, as the first of many tend to do. She had been wrapped up with dealing in the affairs of the rogues and were on their way to Coruscant now. Learned that the New Republic had seized the planet Kessel and would release them off Flirly Voru, a mistake they would regret, as he had become one of Isard's chief contacts and underlings. She, however, learned of Dericote's progress with the Krytos virus and its selection of possible victim hosts. He had already worked it against the Quarren and Gamorreans and would attempt to put it in the Wookiees and Celestins. Isard refused him the Wookiees to fall victim, but allowed the Celestins and even recommended the Bothans, as they had become integral to the New Republic's intelligence chain. Following the events of Kessel, they would soon deploy the virus into the water supplies of Coruscant, and would learn of the loss of the interdictor, the Black Asp, and how it failed to capture the pilot Bror Jace, and the fact it would defect later on. She had begun her endgame, and with that, she had hidden herself away on board Lucenkia. When the New Republic came and took the planet, and amidst the big event to take control, the proper invasion was successful, if not really able to capture the Director of Imperial Intelligence, as she had managed to capture Corran amidst the chaos of the battle, having his snub fighter shot down during the battle over the planet's surface. In an attempt to try to turn the young Corran, she tried to put him through various simulators and attempt to break him as one of her agents. However, she ultimately would toss him out as a failure into the multitude of prisoners. What she hadn't accounted on was Dericote's own attempts of trying to deal with the young Corran, and the fact that amidst all of that, Yonda Donna was still there.
Holy shit, dude.
And it was through his aid that Corran was able to break her custody. A actual small fact that I will bring up when we actually talk about Corran or even Rogue Squadron a bit more is that when he escaped, he quite literally broke into a small, like, hidden passageway and found himself in, like, this abandoned display area. He found himself in this, like, weird trophy room space after he broke out, and inside he found the he had come across a lightsaber among the trophies in this room, and like some audio recording talking about who the Jedi this belonged to was. And come to find out that the Jedi in question was actually Corran's grandfather, and was also the one who got Corran Horn later, following the events of Dark Empire and the Thrawn campaign, to join Luke's Jedi Praxium later on, discovering that he had actually developed his own Force powers. So Corran Horn became kind of their next Luke Skywalker type deal.
Oh,
he was actually he was actually a really cool one. We'll get to hear about him quite a bit. I actually kind of want to do an episode about him at some point later, because he's actually really cool. A lot of the rogues, reading the X-Wing, going through the audiobooks for the X-Wing novels has had me wanting to do, has been like the biggest reason I wanted to do more Star Wars RPGs as of late. I want to do more Star Wars stuff. I've actually been considering jumping back into doing some more Empire at War stuff. Expressly because of reading the X-Wing novels. Those are, I can't recommend that series enough. For one of the series that doesn't even focus a lot on like big force battles, big like Jedi versus Sith threats. You're more down to earth military story almost. It's actually really cool, really good, really funny. The characters are all great. The development you get from all the characters is amazing, and it's a good time all around. It's a good little listen. They don't have the full collection on Audible yet. They are still missing. They're still missing the two that honestly I'm gonna be spoiling a bit for when we get there. The two that matter most are the two I haven't, are the two we're gonna be. The two they don't have are the two we're gonna be covering towards the end of this. So, as stated before, Daracote and Dodonna both served as the, I guess we'll call it X Factor that Isard had not planned around.
Okay.
Because what happens in a little more detail, Corran Horn was literally minding his own fucking business, and then Daracote tries to smash his face in with a rock.
That's insane.
Daracote tries to kill Corran Horn with a fucking rock, and in the midst of this, Daracote himself is instead killed when Dodonna comes to his aid. Dodonna instead breaks his fucking skull with a rock and ensures that Corran can get out of there so that he can reach the New Republic.
That's crazy.
It's fucking insane, dude.
Welcome to Star Wars. We have lasers, we have like blasters, we have all these rock. We have rock.
We have rock.
We have spaceships as big as planets. We have spaceships that can blow up planets. We have rock.
I mean, it's funnier still because that's one thing they use. They use rock.
They use rock.
I mean, you guys are using rock in the fucking Edge of the Empire game. That's where your base is built on a rock.
I mean, yeah, but it's not a weapon yet.
Yet.
Hey, once it loses all valuables and like we can't use it, I'm gonna fucking launch that shit at something. I'm gonna hit you with a rock.
I mean, you could always load that thing with explosives as a failsafe to keep somebody from taking your shit.
Yeah.
You just you get word, you have like a rival gang or some shit, and then they just go in. They find a whole bunch of fucking Rhydonium or some shit. Boom.
Suck rock, idiot. Boom.
Literally suck rock. Get a whole.
Yo, what does space taste like? Boom.
Everyone wanted to know what it felt like to become just space. Boom. But yeah, no. Corran Horn breaks out from the Lusankia and
arrives at the New Republic Tribunal, where the second in command of Rogue Squadron, Tycho Selchu, is being framed for the murder because Tycho himself was a former Imperial pilot. Funnily enough, Tycho was also one of the people who, alongside Biggs Darklighter, escaped to the rebels when Fell's pilot cadets went rogue.
Hell yeah.
Tycho and Biggs were the two, if you recall, Biggs and Tycho were the two rogue Imperial pilots from his academy.
Nice, nice.
And Tycho was the one being framed for Corran's murder because the whole attempt here was trying to actually mask the signature of another starfighter using Tycho's own signature. Like his own radar number was being broadcasted, and that's what they got when Corran's fighter went off the grid. They saw Tycho's being the one fighter closest to him that shot him out of the sky. And that's how Corran ended up in the Lusankya, and how Tycho was about to be framed for the murder before Corran returns and reveals that Tycho was not in fact the mole within Rogue Squadron that they had been assuming, but instead that he would reveal later, and the whole of Coruscant would see that Isard had begun rapid firing her failsafes. And that I mean she had deployed one of her sleeper agents, who is a primary collaborator in the Krytos project, as well as part of her indoctrinations.
Okay.
She had basically made sure that Derrico was dead.
Kind of have to.
And then proceeded to literally break out from the underbelly of Coruscant and have the Lusankya flee the planet. She quite literally breached the superstructure of Coruscant's overcity and flew the Lusankya from the planet's surface.
That's insane.
From within the fucking planet.
That's crazy.
And the whole New Republic saw this shit.
Yo, I'm gonna crack Coruscant. What? No, don't do that.
She, in the midst of this, would also proceed to recall her. She would also proceed to recall her own, her actual mole, Irisi Delirit, in a basically fake out tractor beams. Basically a scam there to fake out that her ship was being pulled into a tractor beam.
Help, my ship is going away now. Oh no.
I am under the water. Please help me.
Help me, I am under the water.
The fucking... It's wilder because at first you think, oh, she's getting freaking taken. Oh, she's taking one of those rogues with them. She may actually be taking more. And then you hear Wedge just like, no. Run back. Run it back. Run. Do not pursue. Do not pursue.
Repeat,
they're just like, why are we not helping her? Because she's not in danger. She is the danger. So, with the whole failure to hold Coruscant and the inability to truly break down the rogues, Isard was forced to retreat to Cythera with Irisi Delirit and Fleary Voru. She went about forming her mini empire and what remained of her loyal followers, and begun an event that would be known as the Bacta War.
Oh, that sounds way cooler than the Clone Wars.
It does, actually. Honestly, when I first heard it, I'm like, whoa, that actually sounds really fucking cool. Wait a minute. When I first heard of the Back War, I had no idea what it was about, and I'm just like, that sounds dope as shit. What is this all about?
Yeah. Dude, Back War? Dope.
So, Back War occurs where the Back War was actually a unofficial battle strictly between Rogue Squadron and its followers, and the followers of Ysanne Isard, as well as the members of the Zukra Corporation.
Not to be confused with Zerka.
Yeah, the Zukra Corporation were the main faction. Were the main faction of Bacta production on Thyfera. There were a small little bit of Thyferan lore. The Zukra and the Asherns were the two major noble families that presided on Thyfera. Rogue Squadron had a representative from both families. Risi Delirit for the Zukra, and what is it? Brora Jace was the representative of the Ashern family. Brora Jace, during a skirmish prior, had actually believed to have been killed. As stated before, the attempt to capture him using Black Ass had the rogues believe that Brora Jace had met his untimely demise. However, it would come to be discovered later that he had in fact not died. The whole war, however, was not directly with the New Republic, because the New Republic would not sign off on a further engagement with Isard after she escaped Coruscant. The rogues all proceeded to hand in their resignations to the New Republic and proceeded to go AWOL.
Uh-oh.
Because they were dead set on making sure Isard would not get away.
Yup. She's gotta go.
So the major members of Rogue Squadron were left basically to scrounge for themselves. It basically is like if you had an entire starfighter group that was all mech warriors. Even more so considering they had to scrounge for the parts for their starfighter because they couldn't officially get parts from the New Republic anymore. They were even basing themselves out of an abandoned space station over Yagdul. And during this whole time, Isard had begun to construct herself a fortress on Thyfera, with her fleet mainly consisting of her flagship, the Lucenkia, as well as 3 Star Destroyers, the Avarice, the Virulence, and the Corruptor. All these ships were the main forces of her armada, and with the backing of the Zukra Corporation and the promotion of Ysanne Isard-Director to being the basically leader of the Thyferan Home Defense Guard, she would be hard pressed to start putting the pressure on Rogue Squadron, because she knew just as much as they did that they had to go.
She needs to leave. It is imperative that she gets the fuck out of here.
Oh no, it wasn't a matter of she needed to leave, it was a matter of the rogues needed to not exist. And the rogues were like, she just needs to die. We need to vape this. We need to vape this bitch. Like, this bitch gotta go. She gotta die.
It's crazy how she's still around. Like, she's gotta go.
But thanks to her control over the Zukra Corporation, Isard had basically seized the entire market on Bacta. Which ultimately is where the name of this war kind of comes up. Because Isard had basically squeezed the market on Bacta and upped its market value due to the threat of the Krytos virus, as well as the spite that she held for those who supported the New Republic.
Yup.
So one of the many things they hadn't counted on, however, was that the rogues did in fact have a few allies they could call upon. One of which being the occasional aid of the New Republic intelligence leader, Aaron Kraken, as well as his nephew and his squadron of A-Wings. Top that, you also had various groups of pirates. Booster Tarek being one of those, a infamous pirate lord whose family was actually rival to Corran Horns. And another infamous name who served as a part of their their group of unofficial collaborators. That being that of the pirate Talon Card.
Yeah!
Who came to be a primary source of supply and income for the rogues. All of these later becoming major enemies for the Director Isard, having to stretch her basic control over the planet and to whatever territory she could grasp. It was basically a rush for her own safety and control. She had lost something. She had come to lose something in every raid she faced with the rogues, and with the impending threat of the other Thyferan rogue pilot Brora Jace of the Ashran family, she would have to contend with them and the threat of her own empire, which was now crumbling down around her. Fleury Voru had already begun to wane in on his favor with Isard, having seen it waver due to her own self-assurance falling apart around her. The first major loss to her numbers was when she had lost the Imperial captain 8 Convarian of Corruptor, who had left an entire convoy unguarded to follow several freighters which had left of their own accord. Corruptor had lost the freighters to Rogue Squadron, as well as the Twi'lek rebels who served the planet's militia squadron of Ryloth. The squadron known as Chirdaki Squadron, and during the whole event, the freighters were lost by the Empire, but Corruptor made the rogues bleed for that loss the Empire suffered, killing most of the Twi'lek pilots and even taking down another rogue, Riv Shiel. Isard had been infuriated by this loss, but she had been even more furious over the whole ordeal, where Convarian basically said, fuck you, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm not following you anymore.
You can't make me.
Convarian going rogue and taking his Star Destroyer with him, Isard had requested that her forces go about killing all of Convarian and the crew's families, as well as that of the defector freighter pilots. Convarian had begun to lose his own favor, and after this saw this as a chance to have the planets unable to deal with the after this, Isard would see a chance to have planets unable to deal with the prices increasing on Bacta and those that Antilles had been offering to join the New Republic. Essentially making her targets based on those who couldn't afford the Bacta and those who were siding with the rogues. During this event, the rogues faced Isard's forces at the Battle of the Graveyard, the area of space which designated where the planet Alderaan once stood. And when Isard lost the Corruptor at the hands of Rogue Squadron, mysterious Alderaanian warship appeared to aid them and took out the Star Destroyer, and would soon see the... it was not the Corruptor that went rogue. It was another one that comes up later. Corruptor does serve her later, but she was still not happy with him over that, and Corruptor was destroyed at the Battle of the Graveyard, where a mysterious Alderaanian warship came to the aid of the rogues ensuring the destruction of the Star Destroyer. And would also see the lone interdictor aggregator withdrawn to that of the High Admiral Triton Pterodoc, who basically lost all faith in Isard's abilities to command and lead. Isard was now coming apart mentally, and she had even her inner circle was still loosely trusted now. Racy Delirit was the one to become the blame of the failure at the Battle of the Graveyard, having noted that her and her squadron were the ones supposed to protect the two ships, having failed tremendously. However, when she tried to push execution, Fleury Voru stepped in as the last voice of reason in her shattering empire.
Crazy.
Amidst all of this, she would come to lose another of her ships, when Captain Syryanka of the Avarice had become his own ruler. This was the guy who goes rogue and does his own thing. Syryanka had taken the Star Destroyer Avarice and become his own, I guess you call him warlord or pirate or anything. This was the one she ordered the execution of all of his crew and family.
Yeah. Ooh. She's fucking slipping, dude.
After his resignation and departure from this, it was when she had an idea to draw the rogues into her clutches to destroy them that she began to sign the death knell of her own empire. He had sent a threat to Wedge and the Rogue Squadron members that she would start slaughtering 2,000 Vratex workers, a native populace of Thyfera who were serving as the harvester workers for the Bacta production. She threatened their demise if Antilles wouldn't come face her, and it was not long after she had learned the location of where the rogues were hiding. The abandoned space station I mentioned before, hidden above Yagdul. She had prepared the Star Destroyer Virulence and the Lucenkia to set out and finally deal with the rogues once and for all. Though the captain commanding Lucenkia, Captain Joke Dryso, was wary of the risks involved. She had brushed off his concerns and had ordered the remainder of her forces to Yagdul, leaving herself unguarded at Thyfera. Before they left, however, Isard had released her clone in secret, and when she set forth as her stand-in to scatter the prisoners of the Lucenkia, she had intended to kill the clone afterwards, but would be unable to do so. As the Virulence and Lucenkia arrive at Yagdul, they were horribly outgunned and outsmarted by the smuggler Booster Tarek, and Dryso
God, what a fucking terrible name.
And Dryso had sacrificed the Virulence to ensure the Lucenkia's survival. Little did they realize they were caught in another ambush when Captain Syryanka, who had defected to the New Republic as commander of the Avarice, now renamed the Freedom, alongside the Alderaanian warship from the Graveyard, had appeared to the aid of the rogues and caught Lucenkia in a trap over the planet. Lucenkia had become slowly weathered down by the rogues, and Fleury Voru was left to deal with the rogues and the Asheron family rebels, who came to attack them at the fortress capital building where Isard had departed aboard Voru's own shuttle. During the fleeing attempt, she would come to be shot down by the New Republic pirate Tycho Selchu. However, she had been believed dead for some time. She herself may have died. At least the legacy of her had lived on. Her clone had disappeared and went into hiding for some time. She had spent the next few years brooding and plotting. The deaths of both Warlord Zinj and the Grand Admiral Thrawn having passed, and in the wake of Thrawn's fall, she would come to make her second return. Isard, or the clone of her, had arrived following Thrawn's death at Bilbringi to the warlord and ruler of the Seotric hegemony, Delek Krenel. This is another reason why I'm not going to be including Krenel in a video on his own, because this is pretty much where his legacy falls apart too.
Yeah, that's fair.
She had planned to use the time spent scattering prisoners of Lusancia to cause her agents to surface. Krenel, however, had become the new target to take down, and Isard had planned to snatch her warship Lusancia back into her control. During her tenure of secrecy, she had prepared a new superweapon like the Death Star she called a pulsar station.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
Like, pulsars are... They kill planets. That doesn't sound good.
I mean, it's what the Death Star was, so it kind of makes sense. The Warlord, however, took the fall, and she had gone to go on to accuse the New Republic head of state Mon Mothma of fabricating the entire facility, which she would try to use to further sow discord and confusion among Isard's enemies. She left a trap for Rogue Squadron and had sent the officer Bork Vessery to the planet Disna. That's a weird one.
His name's fucking Bork.
The planet Disna to rescue the. God damn it! Sent him to Disna to rescue the rogues who had been ambushed by a swarm of TIE fighters, and had them brought back to her hidden base, where they had been left assumed dead. She had brought the rogues there and met with them in order to conceal her true intentions of taking her ship back and claiming her power base once more by helping the New Republic take down Delek Krenel in exchange for her freedom. Antilles, however, unaware of the true identity of the clone, he believed her and agreed. We're not sure about the over-under on how just flat solid that is, but given I don't have the book where this comes from, oh well.
Oops.
We're going strictly off what we got here. The rogues would come to aid her in taking down Krenel's empire, and would later come to be crossing paths, and she would come to cross paths many times with the rogue pilot Corran Horn, who was her biggest opposition in this effort. And during a meetup in one of the holo gyms she would declare that he would never be able to send out any messages to his wife, as she would be intercepting all of them to keep basically all contact quiet and their existence not known. So Corran would not be sending out messages to his wife, Mirax Tarek Horn, the daughter of Booster Tarek.
Dude, Booster Tarek hits me like Booster Gold from DC.
See, but Booster Tarek is cool, though.
Is he, though?
He is actually. He is actually pretty cool.
Okay.
He's the dude that literally has a Star Destroyer that has a city built onto it. He has a stolen Imperial Star Destroyer that he built an entire smuggling city off of.
Okay, yeah, that does sound pretty cool.
Corran Horn would go on to goad Isard about how she never loved anyone, but she returned his little jibe by mentioning her time with his father on Darknull. During their following mission, the rogues would come to be posing as members of Requiem Squadron, which, by the way, is actually a pretty badass name.
That does sound pretty dope.
And would attempt to take down Krenel this whole time. Isard, however, had taken the chance of distraction and went to Belbringi to take back the Lusancia and try to claim Coruscant as hers again. However, just like last time dealing with Horn, she had not prepared for the X factors involved.
Uh-oh.
She hadn't counted on Corran Horn's wife and his friend Ayala Wasiri under the aid of General Aaron Kraken to respond to Isard's efforts. The two women and Mirak's father, Booster Tarek, had set about ending Isard's grand endgame scheme, meeting her after taking command of the Lucenkia before she arrived. When they had stopped the former director's attempt, she would goad Ayala with Siri, and in a panic attempt at being caught and left in isolation aboard her own Star Destroyer, failing to get her to kill her, Isard basically it straight up panicked. She pulled a blaster, and in a fit of anger and full despair, she had tried to kill Wasiri, but would ultimately meet her final end here, dealing with the loss she suffered and her failure to her emperor.
Rough.
So,
what a shit way to go.
Final thoughts on all of Isard. Held along in a little final notes before we go into our little after discussion. Final thoughts for this. Isard had a long and chaotic history of terror, destruction, and betrayal in her wake. Despite all this, she had been doing this with the belief of appeasing her emperor in her eyes. Perhaps the only person she wanted the most approval from, even more than her own father, whom she had executed and directed, indirectly and supposedly, literally, by her own hands. She had lost her prized prison ship to the New Republic, and her life following the end of the Thrawn campaign. The destruction of the Seatric hegemony all but sealed her fate. She had been able to attempt many diabolical deeds and performed just as many. Ultimately, when her world came crumbling down around her, so too did her control. And though she would die, her ship actually would continue to see action until its destruction at the Battle of Borleas in the Yuzon Vong War. True to form that Iceheart would die in such a cold-blooded fashion, but such is the fate of one of the cruelest warlords. She is not the only warlord to focus on, however. Because following her wake after Thyphera, and before the events of the Thrawn campaign, the next on our list is the most infamous Fondorian warlord and the commander of the Super Star Destroyer Iron Fist, as well as one of the two High Admirals, that being the mustachioed mastermind, Warlord Zinj.
God damn it. I hate that you called him the mustachioed mastermind.
Bro, this man straight up, I'm going through the Race Squadron books, which focuses on the actual fight with Zinj. Like, that actually shows where the New Republic's fighting Zinj and everything.
Okay.
And there's literal whole scenes where this man is twirling his mustache like he's some fucking, like, old school comic book villain. This man straight up twirling his mustache and like pride and curiosity, like, brother,
that sucks.
This man is the mustachioed mastermind. I can't not call him that.
I mean, you can not call him that.
But I'm not going to.
You're not gonna. Yeah.
I'm not gonna. That's the difference.
There's the difference between you and me. I ain't gonna not call him that.
So, what final thoughts on the good Ysanne? Well, I say good, but Director Iceheart. What's your thoughts on Isard?
Final thoughts. Still would. I can make her worse.
She made herself worse. Don't you worry.
Also, like, she got up to a lot of fucking weird shit. The fact that she could be like, I'm playing the stocks. I cornered the market on Bacta. Get shit on, idiots. How come no one else ever thought of that? Bacta's the only way for, like, it's like, I cornered the pharmaceutical industrial complex.
I mean, you
have to pay me.
I mean, it is quite literally the most accessible form of healing solution after they basically voided Kolto.
Yeah.
It is both cost effective and most accessible.
Crazy.
It's absolutely wild.
No one else thought of that. That's crazy.
That'd actually be something interesting to talk about, like a weird one-off one day, is like the differences in Kolto and Bacta.
Oh, the fact that Kolto can get fucking polluted and Bacta can't?
Yeah. Yeah, like there's a lot I mean, just like how the transition from Kolto and back to like how that all went down and what the major differences were, because obviously they were used pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
For the top and bottom of it, they were used pretty much the same way. So it only makes me wonder like what that whole difference is. So maybe that may be an interesting little episode once we're a little more like when we're in like one of our interim bits, like a episode discussing Kolto and Bacta. Be interesting. But yeah, no, like the idea that she basically took the entire like mainline medicine of Star Wars, cornered the market on it, and kept it all to herself.
Yeah. That's like Emperor Palpatine levels of like shit.
Well, she was
Of,
learning
like,
from
playing the long game.
She was learning from the best.
True.
That was the one person she had the deepest ties to. In all of the Empire, she built up the most rapport with the Emperor. So it just makes sense that she's as fucking sinister. But like, reading this one, it makes me very much like, it reminds me even more of like why I really enjoyed because I was like remembering a lot of I was getting to talk about and remembering a lot of the events of the X-Wing novels while we were going over this. So it just felt like it felt really fun for me because I'd been going over those fairly recently, and those are still some of my favorites of like some of the old early expanded universe books.
Yep.
So like early time expanded universe books, those are some of my favorites. Right now, those are like earning points as some of my favorites, because the one big thing that's huge for me is like I enjoy a wealthy cast of interesting and potential rich characters. Like, give me characters who are not one-toned.
Yeah.
Like, that's
you said
boring.
Potential rich characters. I thought you were talking like because she cornered the market on the fucking
No, like, it's
fact that she was actually
potentially
rich.
the like character potential rich. Like those are, there's a lot of those. Like Corin Horn is one of the big ones. Gavin Darklighter, Biggs's cousin or cousin or little brother, I don't remember which. Gavin Darklighter's another one. Tycho's cool. I can't really say he's my favorite of that, but he's cool.
Yeah.
Bro Jace was kind of a dick in like the first book, but you really get to like him more. And when he shows up in the Back to War, he shows up again during the events of the Back to War, and you really feel refreshed knowing that he did actually survive.
Yep.
Because throughout Krytos Virus, and I think part of Wedge's, it was either Krytos Virus or the Krytos Trap or the Wedge's Gambit book, where you find out he dies. And when that happens, it's kind of like, oh, fucking damn it, dude. That sucks, because you really started to get attached to you really got attached to Jace in that one. Yeah. Irisi was one of the other ones that was weirdly enough interesting in her own way, but as a more like, this woman's fucking insane. I shit you not. So the way they actually got onto Coruscant was they all were posing as like tourists or merchants or whatever, like posing as normal people to smuggle their way onto Coruscant so that they could get to so they could basically lead their little insurrection using whatever cells of people not happy with the Empire they could gather. Not hard to do when you look into the underbelly and find as many people not happy with the Empire.
Yeah.
And it's one of those interesting ones, because Irisi, the scene where her and Corin Horn are brought in, she's introduced as like a Kuwati noble. She's supposed to be posing as like a Kawadi noblewoman, and Corran Horn is supposed to be posing as her. What apparently I learned is that they have a weird culture of like servant male lovers.
Oh.
And they dress them up in, think about almost like a reverse version of Islam, where the men are the one draped over in everything, keeping themselves hidden, because the way it was, and I may be misremembering part of this, but the idea was it was supposed to be like the man was supposed to be the prize piece of the woman in a noble relationship, and keeping them hidden was a means of like keeping eyes from other women and keeping the man's identity secret so that only she would ever know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Secret relationship.
I mean, it wasn't even really secret. It was more like to avoid like disloyalty kind of thing. It was something to deter disloyalty, was something weird like that.
I don't know how that makes sense, but okay.
I don't know. Star Wars logic. Star Wars has its own brand of logic and rules that go beyond ours, and that's something I keep trying to pound into Crafty's head.
Yeah. Yeah, Star Wars is it's definitely its own brand.
It is its own beast entirely. But Irisi tried to pull, like, for like the first two books, she tried to get into Cor. She was spending most of the books trying to get into Corran's pants. And he was like not okay with it out of respect for her, more than just like, I don't find you attractive at all. Like, I don't want to do this because I feel like it hit your reputation. Because I'm just some fucking nobody reject from Corellia. You're this fucking fancy noblewoman from a big family and corporation from Thyfera.
Yo, don't get me wrong. I do want to bone you, but I don't think it's the proper thing to do.
Even funnier because we learn later that Irisi is actually the one who shoots down Corran. And the entire time when she's serving Isard, her idea of like serving Isard, if she ever got to see Corran Horn again, her entire plan was to capture him and make him her pet.
That's wild.
Like, she wanted him lock, collar, and chain personally to her.
That's crazy.
It was so fucking wild, dude.
Star Wars women are a different breed, dude.
It's fucking insane. And I mean, Corran saw a lot of action in that book. I'll be real, because this man, apparently he actually got in, almost tried to. And I learned this towards the end of Krytos Trap. Apparently, he actually tried dating a Solonian woman before he left Corsac.
That's wild.
Like, the first woman he ever dated was a Solonian woman on Corellia.
That's crazy. Dude's got a type. The type is step on me.
I mean, he ends up marrying Booster Tarek's daughter, who in fact was family blood feud rival of his, because his father actually was the one who imprisoned her father, so there was a huge blood feud thing between the Tareks and the Horns.
Jeez.
But eventually Booster Tarek warms up to him, and they end up getting, him and Mirax end up getting married. So Corran ends up getting his happy ending at the end. Not only that, he goes on to, not only that, like I said before, Corran goes on to becoming a part of Luke, one of the first members of Luke's Jedi Praxium, alongside Kyle Katarn and Mara Jade.
Oh yeah.
Because he's actually one of the fellow Padawans alongside Kyle, who gets his absolute shit pushed in when Kyle loses his fucking shit.
Well, yeah. Well, that's because Kyle is second strongest only to Luke.
Yeah, I mean, it's why Kyle ends up being the, like, main face after Luke disappears in the Abeloth Crisis.
Yeah.
Like, he's the main figure that all of the Jedi lean to. He is the guy. He is him.
Kyle Katarn is him, dude.
He is him. But yeah, that is our that I think that's gonna wrap it up on our end, because that is where we will end it off here. We got all our stuff out. Ysanne Isard was definitely a trip and a half.
Oh yeah.
As well as a massive tumble down some stairs, but
it was an assisted tumble down the stairs. I started at the top of the stairs.
Yeah, she's the one who threw us down the stairs. And I do mean literally threw. This bitch chucked us fucking down the stairs underhand.
Underhand.
But we will be picking up our episode next week on the 29th, where not the 29th, it'd be the 30th when we pick this up next time. We'll be discussing the the first warlord of their own faction, as a fact, getting their own solo video. One of the many side Imperial factions and splinter groups that existed. Warlord Zinj and his empire.
Zinj hits me like Pegasus. Like, I expect him to call him, like, Lukey Boy. Like, he just hits me as, like, the pompous dude who's just like, yes! And his fucking comically large mustache.
I don't think you understand.
How close I am.
This man
dude,
is
I've seen a picture of him drinking wine. I know what he's about.
This man, dude. I'm still finishing up one of the 3 major books for Zinj, for the whole like Zinj era stuff in Legends. Because I'm doing solo. The one I'm on is Solo Command, which is the last one before the hunt, where it goes into the events of what Leia has been doing and what Luke has been doing alongside Solo, who's been leading the New Republic's forces against Warlord Zinj. Because the whole thing there is Han Solo and Chewbacca are leading the New Republic forces alongside Rogue and Wraith Squadron against Zinj. Meanwhile, Luke is doing his own thing and eventually gets involved. And Leia this whole time is on a secret mission, which, through the Courtship of Princess Leia book, we know is where she is off going to make deals with the Hapes Consortium to aid them in their fight with Zinj. So we'll get to talk about a lot of that. Next week. We may even afterwards talk a bit about. Oh, we probably won't do them. Probably won't do them after this. We'll probably wait until after we go through all the warlords and then discuss them. Like, once we get through Dark Empire, I think would be appropriate to discuss them. Getting through Dark Empire would probably be where I would try to start talking about the Hapes a bit. For what the Hapes and them are the ones we'll start talking about after Dark Empire. Okay. Because I figure that they're the ones worth mentioning in that specific vein. Because if we're going to go through talking about the Vong and everything that happens afterwards, then the Hapes are kind of a big deal. We'll also finally get to talk about the Empire of the Hand at some point. because they're actually another, I guess you'd call them a warlord group, because they do have imperial elements in their number, but they are a Chiss faction. They're Chiss aligned, but they're empire oriented. That makes sense.
They're empire coded.
They're empire coded, but they're Chiss aligned. So we'll probably get to deal with that. We'll probably talk about them before we get into the stuff that comes after Paleon, because we'll also have to talk about them when we talk about Thrawn's return, because that's kind of a big thing. As I stated before, the big name warlords are... Most of the big name warlords all have a second coming. In the form of they had a clone.
Nice.
So, we'll talk about all that and more over the course of these next few weeks. And as stated before, we will be doing a special segment to kind of give some celebration for the end of the sequel trilogy on the 21st of December, where we will be doing our Dark Empire versus the sequels. Actually, that times out pretty well, because next week we talk about Zinj. We'll talk about we'll actually talk about Thrawn the week before, and then we talk about Dark Empire. So that actually segues pretty beautifully into getting to talk about the differences in Dark Empire and the sequels. Because then the week after, for New Year's and after Christmas, we'll get to talk about we'll be able to talk about the First Order and get them out of the way. Be able to close that one. And then going into the new year, we'll actually talk about the warlords that came after Palpatine.
Yeah.
Because that
Talk
all...
about Star Wars AP after Palpatine.
Because although... We'll also probably close out with a lot of the minor warlords. A lot of the other side warlords like Zinj will probably get mentioned after we talk about that beforehand. So we'll get to talk about the Pentastar alignment and Artis Kane, Sandor Del Vardis and the Ariadu Authority, the Pterodok brothers and the Greater Maldrude, and Blitzer, Harisk, and Zero Command. Which I guess will probably just end up being incorporated into Dala's episode more than anything. Because Dala will come after we talk about the mysterious Carnor Jax, who I still know next to nothing about.
Hooray! We'll both learn.
We'll both be learning on that episode. But that'll all come later. So, hope you all enjoy your evening. And I hope for those of you in the US, you have a great Thanksgiving. And we will see you all next week for for Warlord Zinj.
The mustachioed man himself.
I also have considered that after Thanksgiving, I may try to get back into a bit of the streaming formula. So we'll see about doing that. At least for a couple
of weeks till Christmas hits.
Well, yeah.
Holiday season is rough.
Holiday season is brutal. I'm already feeling it. I hope you all enjoy, and we will see you all next week. This has been the Freelancer, signing off until next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye!